As the second best-selling Chevrolet vehicle here in North America, an all-new Equinox is a pretty big deal. Well, today I'm here on the show floor of the 2024 Chicago Auto Show, and this right here is the fully redesigned fourth-generation Equinox. Let's take a first look. So before we start talking about the redesigned Equinox, I want to remind you that right there is the 2024 model. It's the old version. Chevrolet actually gave it a pretty significant refresh a few years ago, and the company sold a little over 212,000 in 2023. So again, it is the second best-selling Chevy vehicle behind, of course, the Chevrolet Silverado. But let's go ahead and talk about the exterior styling of the new Equinox, because as you can see, the front fascia of this vehicle takes a lot of design cues, of course, from the new Chevrolet Blazer, the Blazer EV, the Trailblazer. There's a new corporate face going on at Chevy with the front end. This model here that I'm showing you is the Active trim. It's the first off-road oriented version of the Equinox, and it's painted in this shade of green called cacti green metallic. It certainly looks good with the black accents with this vehicle. You can see there's a lot of black chrome of the vehicle. There's the black Chevy bow tie logo. There's the Active badge here, and then all Equinox models are going to come with these new headlight clusters. So you have an LED daytime running light, LED low and high beams. You have also LED fog lights here at the lower portion. They're kind of separated from the actual LED DRLs themselves, along with the turn signals. Overall, it's definitely a more aggressive, more masculine, more boxier look to it. But let me know in the comment section below what you guys think of the overall design. There are actually going to be 3 different trim levels of the Equinox. This model here, again, is the Active trim, the off-road oriented model. Now, I can't pop the hood because this is an early prototype, but all Equinoxes are going to be, standard with one engine. It's a 1.5 liter gasoline direct injection turbocharged 4-cylinder. The powertrain is actually carryover from the previous generation. It makes 175 horsepower, and then depending on the transmission and the drivetrain, you get either a 184 pound-feet of torque or 203 pound-feet of torque. The front drive models will use a CVT. That's a new transmission that replaces the old 6-speed automatic, while the all-wheel drive version, which is the one I'm showing you here, uses an 8-speed automatic. So that's certainly an upgrade. Even though the engine is carryover, Chevrolet has upgraded the transmissions, which should improve the acceleration and should improve the fuel efficiency, of course. Now, moving around the side profile, the Equinox is actually built off of a modified version platform of the previous generation. Chevrolet says it's basically the same because they're trying to, again, reduce cost, because this is the gas-powered model. There's also an Equinox EV, which is reviewed separately. There is no hybrid version of the Equinox, and that's because Chevrolet is saying the fully electric model is going to basically, suffice those who are looking to get into an electrified version of the Equinox. Its overall length at around 107, or the wheelbase is around 107.3. Overall length is around 183.7 inches long. This is literally about the same size as the previous generation, but it's around 2.3 inches wider. So that's going to give it more of that aggressive stance, to give it more of a sportier look. You can see the wheels on the Active trim. You can finally get features like these general grabber all-terrain tires. So I actually think it looks really good with this particular model. You can see it's a 17-inch wheel. There's also an RS trim where you can finally get a 20-inch wheel on the Equinox for the first time. You can see the wheels themselves. I like the two-tone look to them with the machine and the gray inner pockets. Ground clearance for this model, I believe GM says the Active version is going to have an extra inch of ground clearance, but you can see here, this is certainly a new look for the Equinox with the gray cladding. It definitely gives us a more tougher, more off-roady appearance to it, which it should be able to back up, of course, with those all-terrain tires. Now, the white roof that you're seeing here is exclusive to the Active trim. I also like the fact that you have these actual raised roof rails where you can actually put stuff on the roof. This model here is lacking a panoramic sunroof. That is available as an option. I also love this new styling detail here, where you have this interesting rear window that kind of adds to the whole blockiness of this vehicle. It just has a more boxier appearance versus the previous generation. And then looking at the cargo area, or the rear area, you can see taillights. They're a little bit more of a skinnier design. They are a full LED, it looks like, in terms of the modules. You can see the black bow tie logo. Certainly looks good versus the yellow that you traditionally see. There's also black badging back here. Underneath here, you can see no visible exhaust tips. Instead, you just have a more aggressive rear diffuser. And then Equinoxes in general will tow a maximum of 1,500 pounds. That's for the all-wheel drive model. The front drive model with the CVT will tow a maximum of 800 pounds. Now, sadly, I can't open up the rear cargo area. Chevrolet asked me not to because this vehicle here is a show car. It's also dead. The battery is dead, so I can't open up the power liftgate. But they did say that cargo space for this model is just under 30 cubic feet, which expands to around 63.5 when you have those rear seats folded. Now taking a look at the interior of the redesigned 2025 Equinox, if you guys have spent some time in the previous generation, this is where you're also going to see Chevrolet gave this thing some pretty big upgrades. Now if you guys are also familiar with some of the newer Chevy products, you're going to see there's an all-new infotainment system. So all the trims will come standard with an 11-inch instrument panel here, which is a huge upgrade versus the 4-inch kind of combination analog screen you had in the previous generation. And then you have an 11.3-inch touchscreen here. Now this is going to run Chevrolet's latest Android Automotive operating system with Google built in, and unlike the Blazer EV, this system here will continue to have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. So for those of you who want that feature, it's nice to see that Chevrolet is including that in the new Equinox. Now in terms of the rest of the materials, you can see I love the kind of stitching and the matching seat color that you find on the dashboard. There are some hard touch plastic materials, but some nice soft touch plastics as well. This is an early pre-production model, so Chevrolet asked me not to sit in it. In terms of the door panel materials, you can see there is some hard touch plastic, but there's also some nicer kind of textured fake leather material. The window controls are one touch up down for the driver. You have memory seating, which by the way, looking at the seats of this vehicle, every Equinox will come standard with heated seats and a heated steering wheel. That's even on the base LS trim. So they're really upping the feature quality of this vehicle. This model here that we're looking at also has ventilated seats for the first time. So you can see there's the active badge here. I also love the way it looks with the cactus green, with this kind of two-tone where it's kind of like a yellow with copper and black. It's a really interesting look. You have a wireless phone charging pad here. Your your drive mode selector is here. The gear selector has been moved to the actual stock over here. You also have this new steering wheel, as you can see with the newer Chevrolet switchgear. The one thing that is missing from this vehicle, however, is Super Cruise. Now, every Equinox will come with adaptive cruise control as standard, but you have to, if you guys want Super Cruise, you have to step up to the bigger Chevrolet models. The company doesn't offer Super Cruise on this version, but overall, you can see it certainly makes a great first impression. The active trim in general also has some more, unique aspects of it to give it a sportier and maybe even a more rugged look. But let's go ahead and take a look at the backseat area, which again, I can't actually sit in the backseat area. Now, sadly, I don't have final legroom figures just yet, but I also like how Chevrolet has carried over the materials from the front seat over into the back. You have this kind of suede Alcantara, the leather bolsters and whatnot, the contrasting stitching. These seats also should fold down. However, they don't slide forward and back. You typically don't find that. In terms of features, this active trim also has rear seat air vents. You have 3-level heated rear seats. You have 2 USB-C charging ports. You have storage pockets in the actual seat backs themselves. In terms of legroom figures, I like how the floor is completely flat. In terms of space here, this seat is all the way back, so kind of ignore how there's not very much space. But I'd probably say, just looking at it, you should expect in this class to find between like 34 to 37 inches of legroom. The Equinox appears to be on the smaller side, and that's because the wheelbase of this vehicle is around 107 inches. It's on the bigger end, but there are vehicles in the class that do offer more rear seat legroom. Now, the Chevrolet Equinox name has a big history for Chevy because this nameplate was first introduced back in 2005, and since then, Chevy says they've sold over 3 million vehicles in just the US alone. 3 million vehicles, and obviously, when you compete in the compact mainstream SUV segment with the Toyota RAV4 and the Honda CR-V, this is a very competitive set. So after finally seeing the redesigned Equinox in person, I'm pretty impressed with the overall look. I think Chevrolet went in the right direction in terms of the design. I also love this new active trim. I am sad at the fact that there is no hybrid option. I mean, a hybrid version of this vehicle I think would do extremely well if you look at vehicles like the CR-V and the RAV4, which also offer a hybrid powertrain, which accounts for a big percentage of sales. But again, if you want something electrified, Chevrolet is confident the fully electric Equinox EV should suffice. Now, in terms of the pricing and availability, this is where Chevy is a little bit tight-lipped still because this is still a very early prototype model. The company did say that this vehicle should be available toward the end of this year. It'll be a 2025 model, and pricing will be announced as we get closer to that on-sale date. If you guys want to guess the pricing, the current model is going to start around $26,000, go up to around $42,000. Obviously, with this new version here, how it's got more tech, it's got more features, it's got more capability, I expect this model to probably be a few $1,000s more expensive. But again, we will know that as we get closer to that on-sale date. For Redline Reviews here at the 2024 Chicago Auto Show, I'm Sofyan Bey.